I used to think a quiet house meant peace. But lately, it's felt like suffocation. Mark leaves early, comes home late, says little. When he does speak, it's work, bills, or complaints about noise. Our marriage hasn't been passionate in years. It's routine, obligation, the polite silence of strangers under the same roof. Ethan moved back in 2 months ago. His breakup hit him hard. I heard from Mark that the girl cheated. Typical. But I saw it in his face, in his posture. He was devastated. He barely speaks either. Eats in silence, locks himself away in his room, avoids eye contact. At first, I gave him space. Figured he'd come around. But one night, I found him sitting outside on the porch, shoulders hunched like the world was crushing him. I didn't say anything, just sat next to him. Eventually, he spoke. Not about the breakup, but about feeling like nothing he did mattered. Like he didn't know who he was anymore. I listened. I didn't offer advice. Just listened. After that, we talked more. Mornings over coffee when Mark was already gone. Late afternoons when the house was still. He asked about my life before Mark. I asked about his college plans. The conversations were easy, open. He smiled sometimes. I hadn't seen him smile in weeks. Somewhere in the middle of all this, I started noticing him differently. Not as a stepson, not even as a young man, just someone who looked at me. Actually looked. When he asked how I was, I could tell he meant it. Mark hadn't asked me that in months. I started making lunch for 2 instead of 1. Folded his laundry when he left it in the dryer. Not big things. Little things. But enough. I told myself it was just kindness. I knew better. One afternoon, he thanked me. Looked me in the eyes and said, "I don't know how I'd be holding up without you." His voice cracked a little. That sentence echoed in my head for hours. That night, lying next to Mark in bed, I realized I didn't even remember the last time he'd said anything with feeling. I caught myself looking at Ethan too long the next day. Watching the way he walked, the way his hair fell in his face. I hated myself for it, but I didn't stop. I convinced myself it was just curiosity. But it wasn't. I felt seen. I felt needed. And when I felt those things, I realized how long it had been since I'd felt anything at all. Ethan was hurting, and I was drawn to his pain, not to fix it, but because it mirrored mine. He was the only person in that house who felt anything real. I didn't plan any of it. I didn't intend to blur the lines. But looking back, it started the moment I sat beside him on the porch and said nothing. That silence was the first crack. And something started slipping through it, slowly, quietly, and then all at once. He started opening up more. At first, it was about Tracy, how she made him feel worthless, how the lies tore something inside him. Then it shifted. He talked about feeling like a burden in his own home, about always being second to his father's work. I knew that feeling well. It was the first time I heard anger in his voice, and I didn't interrupt. I let him speak, and when he stopped, I told him I understood. The way he looked at me after that, it lingered. His eyes didn't flick away like before. He was searching for something. I didn't know what, and I didn't ask. I just let it happen. He brushed my hand one day while reaching for the remote. It wasn't intentional, but we both paused. My fingers tingled afterward, and I noticed he was still watching me. Neither of us said anything. That night, I thought about it longer than I should have. Mark had been out of town for work. He didn't call. Didn't even text to say good night. I sat in the kitchen with Ethan, both of us eating takeout. We laughed at something stupid he said, real, honest laughter. I hadn't felt that in years. He told me my laugh was warm. I remember blushing. I didn't want to, but I did. It wasn't one big moment. It was dozens of small ones. A compliment that lingered. The way he stood closer when he talked. The way his voice softened when he said my name. I noticed it all, and I didn't stop him. I didn't stop myself either. I told myself I was being ridiculous. He was vulnerable. I was lonely. Nothing more. But the lies we tell ourselves are the easiest to believe when they make us feel something we've been starving for. He started waiting up for me at night, even when I stayed out late. Said he just wanted to know I got home safe. Mark never waited up. Not once. Ethan would ask about my day, and he listened like he cared. Like it mattered. That attention, it started filling something in me I hadn't realized was empty. One night, he thanked me again. Said I made things bearable. He looked at me too long again, and I looked back. I didn't flinch this time. He reached up, brushed hair from my face. My breath caught. His hand lingered. My heart was beating so loud I was sure he could hear it. I pulled away. Told him to get some sleep. He nodded, but the silence that followed wasn't comfortable anymore. It was charged. I couldn't sleep that night. My body felt restless, like something had been set in motion and couldn't be undone. The guilt hadn't arrived yet. Just the awareness that something between us had shifted. And I didn't feel afraid of it. I felt alive. For the first time in a long time, I felt noticed, desired, even if I knew I shouldn't want it. And knowing that only made it worse. The first time he kissed me, I didn't stop him. I should have. I had every reason to. But when his lips touched mine, all the reasons dissolved. It didn't feel wrong in the moment. It felt like release. Like every quiet ache that had built up finally found somewhere to go. I didn't expect gentleness from him, but that's what I got. No rush, no aggression. Just a slow unraveling. Every touch felt like a question, and I answered each one without words. I wasn't thinking about consequences. I wasn't thinking about Mark. I wasn't thinking at all. My body responded before my conscience could catch up. It was like muscle memory I didn't know I had. His hands were tentative at first, then certain. Mine were no better. I let them wander. I welcomed what came next with a hunger I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't just physical, it was emotional, dangerous, and it was mine. I didn't recognize myself. That thought flashed once, then vanished under the weight of need. He said my name like it mattered. Said it like I was something worth craving. And I believed him. Every word, every movement pulled me deeper into something I wasn't prepared for. Afterward, the silence was different. Not empty, just heavy. He lay beside me, breathing steady, peaceful in a way I hadn't seen him before. I watched him and tried to feel disgusted with myself. I expected shame. I expected horror. Instead, I felt calm. That scared me more than anything. I wrapped a blanket around myself and stood by the window. The sky was dark, and the street below was empty. I felt hollow and full at the same time. My mind started catching up to what had happened, but it was too late for reason. The line had been crossed. There was no taking it back. I thought about Mark. About how distant he'd become. How long it had been since he looked at me with anything but indifference. I thought about all the nights I lay awake beside him, untouched, unnoticed. And how Ethan had undone all of that in one night. But he wasn't mine. He couldn't be. What we did wasn't love. It was a response to loneliness, a shared wound we mistook for intimacy. Still, a part of me didn't want to regret it. I wanted to own it. To say it meant something, even if it shouldn't have. When Ethan stirred and reached for me, I froze. I didn't pull away, but I didn't move closer either. My head was spinning. My chest was tight. I didn't know what came next. I sat down, watching the light shift across the floor as morning crept in. The weight of what we did settled slowly, like dust in the air after everything breaks. I didn't cry. I didn't speak. I just sat with it. There was no plan. No excuse. Just the truth of what happened between us. And the terrifying knowledge that we had changed everything without saying a word. He avoided me the next morning. I didn't blame him. I avoided myself. Mark came home that afternoon, kissed my cheek like nothing had changed. But everything had. I moved through the house like a stranger. Every touch from Mark felt like a reminder of what I'd done. Every look from Ethan, when it happened, carried weight I didn't want to acknowledge. I kept waiting for the guilt to crush me. But it didn't. It just lingered. Quiet. Watchful. I went through routines like I always did, but with new eyes. Every moment alone with Ethan felt tense. Not from shame, but from restraint. We didn't speak of that night. We didn't need to. It hung between us, thick and unsaid. He tried once. Started a sentence with my name, voice low and uncertain. I stopped him with a look. He nodded, looked away. After that, he kept his distance, but the air between us never cleared. Mark didn't notice. Or maybe he chose not to. I started locking the bathroom door. I caught myself dressing faster. Every gesture became guarded. I wanted space. I wanted closeness. I wanted to undo everything and do it again all at once. That confusion consumed me more than guilt ever could. One evening, I told Ethan we needed to talk. He already knew what I was going to say. I didn't need to explain. He stood there quietly, then said he'd been planning to move out soon anyway. I nodded, pretending it was just about space and timing. But we both knew it wasn't. He didn't say he regretted it. Neither did I. But we didn't apologize, either. There was nothing left to say. Whatever happened between us wasn't sustainable. It was fragile, impulsive, built on loneliness and silence. And maybe that's what made it so dangerous. On the day he left a note. Just a few lines. No anger, no blame. Just words that said he understood and wished things were different. I read it 3 times, folded it, and tucked it away. I haven't read it since. The house felt colder without him. Not quieter, colder. Mark still didn't notice. Still asked if I'd picked up the dry cleaning or paid the internet bill. Still slept beside me, back turned, like always. Nothing had changed, yet everything had. I stood in the hallway that night, looking at the door to Ethan's room. It was empty. The air felt different. I thought about how easy it was to lose yourself when no one's really looking. I had made a choice. One that couldn't be undone. Not by time, not by silence, not even by distance. I don't tell myself it was love. That would be a lie. But it wasn't meaningless either. It was a mirror. And what I saw in it wasn't who I thought I was. Maybe that's the worst part, not what I did, but how much of me wanted it. How much of me still does. Some lines, once crossed, never disappear. They just stay buried, beneath chores, conversations, and cold bedsheets. Waiting.